Hello, all, and welcome to Choices, Books and Gifts, where you always have choices. My name is Jay DePaolo. I'm the owner of Choices Books and Gifts in New York City. It's a store dedicated to health, wellness, and the recovery community for over 30 years. I am the host of our podcast, You Always Have Choices, where we dive deep into stories of transformation, healing, and personal growth. Today, we welcome Lynn from a dear friend of mine for over 30 years. Lynn is here to share her story and talk about her journey. I'm delighted and honored to have her here with us as our special guest. Hi, Lynn.
Hey there.
How are we doing today? Okay.
I'm good. It's actually over like 37 years.
That we know each other. So I'm going to put that, that's something I can revisit and just put that in.
88.
Oh, I remember you always tell me that date.
Yep.
All right. All right. So if you don't mind, I'm going to dive into some questions right away with you and
Go
get this
for it.
wonderful podcast on its
It's so
way.
good to be here.
Oh, I'm glad you feel that way. And
Yeah, I'm
I'm so
excited.
glad you are here. It's fantastic. So number one, Lynn, can you take us back to when you and Jay first met? What do you remember about those days?
Really? Well, I remember the 80s are a little cloudy for me. It sort of
Me
was in a,
too.
not really a blackout, but sort of a brownout for most of it. But I do remember coming out of my apartment. My apartment was right up the block from whatever it was then, Brickwork, Sports Bar,
Brickwork.
whatever
Yeah.
it was called. And it was a hot summer night. And I remember, I still remember almost what I was, my uniform that summer. It was just like this tight little jean skirt. And you and Bobby and Jeff and maybe Hamlet, and you were all like moving Bobby somewhere. And I went into the bar and you clowns came in afterwards and you were all rowdy and I'm like, "Oh, I like these guys." And so that was 88. I got sober in 90. So it was kind of a short run with you, but it seemed like a much longer time. And what I remember is a lot of laughing. I remember a lot of drinking
Mm,
and playful stuff.
right. Right. No, I agree. That's the way I see it is. And I love the way you said, it was like a brownout because there's nothing I remember that complete. I just know of times that certain nights we hung out, certain nights we did other things, but it was sort of just like that. And it was short, as you say. I know that you have a long career, which we'll get into in a little while, and that may even come up right now. So, what was your relationship to alcohol and drugs? If you use drugs, I'm not sure. What was it like back then?
Ooh, I mean, that was the end. And yeah, drugs were a part. Coke, I loved doing Coke. Pot, I always had pot. But if I didn't have either of them, I was okay, but I had to have alcohol. Like
Yeah.
that was my thing. I had to have if I had the other, it was great, but alcohol was a must. And the 80s, my mom died in 82, so that's kind of where I crossed that imaginary line into a really dark place. So the 80s were really like a brownout.
Yeah.
And I was pretty much drinking around the clock. And I would, if I was going out to the sports bar at 8, 9, 10 o'clock, then I was already trashed. And if there was a game on, I'd put my money down on the bar and I'd be there. And then at some point, I would just kind of get up, leave my money on the bar, go home, right down the block, knock down a couple of drinks, and then go back to the bar and drink some more. So it was just 24-hour drinking
Yeah.
and really just crazy behavior. I was just a crazy girl in the city.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what you remember about me. I was just a crazy lost girl who just
Yeah.
thought I was having so much fun.
Well, not just you, all of us were crazy. Some of the things, when I think back, I'm amazed that, we're still around, that we came out, more or less unscathed. So,
Well,
you know,
I always hung out with guys like you guys who
yeah,
drank like I did or more, because then, I it, it was normal.
yeah,
So I didn't even realize that I was an alcoholic. I honestly didn't. That veil of denial was so thick that I just hung out with, guys, women, whoever drank like I did.
yeah,
So I didn't have, any idea. And the day that I got sober, I wasn't one of these people who said, I've got to stop. I want to stop. I'm going to try to stop. I'm going to drink this. I'm only going to have one. I drank until I stopped.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What do you remember most about your early days in recovery? What was that like?
Well, what I remember, it's funny when you look back almost 35 years, it will be 35 years next month. I look back and I remember it being just such a beautiful, innocent time. Now, if I look in my journal, it's probably not what I was saying. I probably was saying, like, what the heck am I doing? And I walked into the mustard seed and I thought the guys in the raincoats. Yeah, I don't know why we always think there's going to be guys in
Yep.
raincoats. And, I walked in there and I think I must have gotten the yellow pages out. I don't know. Maybe I looked up. I don't know what I did. I mean, I don't know how I didn't know anything about AA. So, but I know there was a yellow pages involved, and I know there was making a phone call. And whatever I said, I didn't say I was an alcoholic. I probably just said whatever. And they asked me where I lived, and they told me where the mustard seed was.
Yeah.
And they said there's a beginner meeting at 6:15. And I was thinking, wow, I got like the first day of school or something. Like I caught the beginning of a class because I said, oh, will there be other people starting today? And I think people at Intergroup must just get the craziest calls.
Right.
And they said, just go, just go, you'll be okay. And I went in there and I saw everybody was so young and beautiful and smiling and laughing and tan. And I looked around and I thought, like, I was so, my, my face was just rock sad.
Oh,
And I thought, I'm never going to smile like that.
right.
I'm never going to be one of these people. And I sat all the way in the corner and I didn't hear a thing, but I did hear them say, keep coming, come back tomorrow. And I didn't have anything else. I had lost my job. My family wasn't talking to me. There was no place else for me to go. So
Yeah.
I went back and I got a sponsor the next day, Terry,
Sure.
who
We
who
just
we just
passed.
lost
Yeah.
a few months ago. And I went to the back room, which was the beginner meeting, and it was crazy back then. I mean, there were so many people getting sober, and it was just a whole different thing. It was a whole different time. No social media, no phones, no, all of this stuff. And I heard her say, get a sponsor. This is the only thing I heard. And I went up to her after the meeting and I said, I need a sponsor. She said, I'll be your sponsor. And I said, oh, okay. And it turned out she lived right around like I lived on 3rd Avenue between 34th and 35th. She was on 34th, right off 3rd.
Right. Right.
So the journey began, and she just said, just go there every day. And I did. I went there every day. And some days I'd call her and I couldn't move. She said, put on some lipstick and go over to the meeting. Just,
I sort of remember, some of the stories we've told each other over the years. And I remember you saying, Jay, sometimes that because, 37th had that big hill. And you'd say sometimes really wasn't looking forward to climbing that hill to go to that meeting, but I would just get my ass up that hill.
I can
And
remember a couple of times because I detoxed in the mustard seed. Like I
right,
should have
right.
been in a hospital. I should have been in a detox. I should have had rehab, but I didn't know anything about. I didn't know anything about it. I was drinking at the very minimum a quart of vodka a day,
Yeah.
minimum. So to go from that to just nothing, like I was sick, and there were a couple of times I hailed a cab to go there. I can remember times coming out of the sports bar, and I literally lived across the street and hailing a cab and getting in, and I'd say, "Over there." He'd say, "What?" So those days were just, and it was summer, and it was just I got connected. I just got connected, and I made
Yeah.
friends, and it was just a different time than it is today.
Yeah. I have to agree. I came in a lot late. You were already in. You had
Eight
many
years
years, but
later, yep,
I remember when I did come in, that's there was something so special about that particular room,
yeah,
and front and back. They were just, and the
yep.
community and the friendships. I like you said, I thought, man, I'll never smile again. My life is over. And the fun I used to have. I mean, we'd be
Oh,
in restaurants laughing the loudest, being the loudest, just because.
no kind of laughter like sober laughter.
No, I
I
agree.
remember sitting in the mustard seed because I was 8 years sober. I was 8 months pregnant with my youngest. We had just moved to Jersey. Billy had relapsed and life was really difficult. And I'm sitting there. I had just gotten a job on that block, a part time job. So I was going to the 12:45 and I was sitting there and you walked in. And I always say that it was one of the top highlights of my sobriety, seeing
And
you
and
walk
mine too. I was so afraid to go there, so afraid because I had the restaurant in the neighborhood, and I'm saying, "Oh, all my customers are going to see me." And I did. I saw half of them, and half of them said, "It's about time you got here. We've
in.
been
Yeah,
saving a
yeah.
seat for you."
Yeah, you
But
were
seeing
sober
you
about
there,
4 months
someone who
pregnant.
was so close to me,
Yeah.
just immediately made me at ease. That was so wonderful. Seeing
You
you
were
at that
sober
first
about
meeting.
4 months, I think, when I met you
Okay.
in there. And I just still remember. I remember where I was sitting. You walked in, and I was just, oh, it was the best.
You
And
were
you
right on
just
that wall on the
right on the
side.
wall. Yep.
Yeah.
And I was 8 months. Well, not maybe not 8 months, but I was pretty pregnant.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So let's continue. Was there a specific moment or turning point that, you said, I have to change. I need to get sober. Was there anything, or were you just sick and tired of being sick and tired, or was it, you know,
I had gotten fired from a job on like July 2nd. Right, my anniversary is the 16th. And it was at like 8:30 in the morning. I walked in and I thought I was doing really well in this job, and my boss, who I was very friendly with, said, "We have to let you go." And I begged him. I was really
oh,
just, and I was bottoming out. Like I was drinking around the clock, and I wasn't even getting drunk anymore. I was just like cranky and
yeah,
weepy. And I
yeah.
came home, and my friend Bob, who lived next door to me, was on vacation that week, and he was taking his laundry out. Beautiful Monday morning. And I told him I got fired. He said, "Go upstairs. I'll be right there." And he came back, and he came in, and he said, "You need to stop drinking." He said, "If you stop drinking, your whole life will change." And nobody had ever said that to me before.
Right, right.
Nobody had ever said to me, "You need to stop drinking." I mean, I got fired from jobs from employers who said you drink too much, but it, just went over my head.
Right.
So the seed was planted, and it was another 2 weeks of really bad drinking and drugging and bad. And but then I woke up on the morning of July 16th, and I heard this little voice say, "Today's the first day of the rest of your life." And I went to the
That's
meeting.
fun.
I didn't
Yeah.
drink, and I woke up the next day, and I didn't want to drink. And I thought, what happened? Like, why don't I want to drink? And each day I didn't want to drink like that. And it baffled me for the longest time. And then I've in no time, or maybe sometime, realized that, it was God that took it away. I think he just got so tired of me and my antics and
Yeah.
my personal adventures, they say in the big book, that he just said, here, and he plopped me in the mustard seed. He said, what I'm going to do for you is take away the obsession. You've got to do the rest. And that's just how I've always looked at it.
Yeah, and you really did do the rest because you went in and you were like a Terry. You took on sponsees and you worked the program hard. You did so much service. I remember the chairing of the meetings and all the other things. You threw yourself into the program, and I think that's why you're so very successful at it. And I also remember you always got really good jobs. You were always a good job getter.
Back in those days, you'd open the New York Times, you'd circle all these jobs, you'd put on your best little suit, you'd go to an employment agency, and I cleaned up well, and they always loved me. And they'd get me this great job, and
Great.
and I'd lose it,
Yeah, yeah.
but I always got great jobs.
Absolutely. That's what I remember. Have you faced any close calls with your sobriety over the years? Any time that, you thought you wanted to go back out again or something? Was anything tough?
Well, as you know, I married someone I counted days with, Billy,
Yeah.
and we were just sort of like the it couple in the mustard seed. We
You
sponsored
were.
everyone, we chaired meetings, we were, we held people together. We had Christmas at our house, Thanksgiving at our house. I started having kids. I had, two kids, my first two kids in my 40s, and life was just beyond my wildest dreams. And then out of the blue, he tells me he's been drinking for 2 years. And, my whole world just exploded. And the next 14 years with him, now when this happened, I had three little kids. And it was just really a nightmare of
Yeah.
evictions, having him arrested, family court, public assistance, eviction, get a great job, all this stuff. And there were times when in mid this one for 14 years. So it's from when I was like 8 years sober till I was 20 something, where and I didn't have a sponsor and I wasn't going to meetings. And I remember lying in bed one night saying, what the heck? I mean, who would even care if I drank? And I felt right away like wait, hold on, like this is a gift that you got. Like you can never have that thought. So I mean, that was the closest I came. I don't really. I'm really blessed. There's nothing. I am Michael Miller. Our friend Michael gave me this. The No Matter What Club, and I'm a very happy member of it. So
Yeah.
there are times when I'm with my kids and they're drinking like an espresso martini. Like why wasn't that around for me? And I think I just
I
want to.
remember. Go ahead.
I just
Go
want to
ahead.
taste it. That's all I want to
Yeah.
do. I just want to taste it.
Yeah. I remember those years. I never realized you didn't have a sponsor though, but I remember we would talk a lot on the phone and how it
Terry
was so
was
hard.
still Terry was my sponsor for the beginning of when we met, when I had 8, 9 years, and then she relapsed, and then I didn't have a
Oh,
sponsor, and
okay.
then all this was going on, and then a couple of years later she came back. She got a couple of years, and I asked her to sponsor me again. She said, "You have more time than me." I said, "You're always going to be my sponsor,
Right,
always."
right.
And then she relapsed again. So I went a long time without a sponsor, and
Wow.
but
Now, with all these years later, just curious, do you have a sponsor today?
yes,
Okay.
Mona, Mona?
Yeah, I do.
She's sober 40 years. And I
Yeah.
asked her about, I don't know, 8 years ago. But I had someone, Jeannie,
I saw her at Terry's funeral. Wasn't she there, Mona? Did she
no,
come by? No. Okay.
no.
It's been some years.
But yeah, no, I have a sponsor, yes. And I,
Good,
and I,
good,
and
good,
I
good.
call my sponsor because I have a lot of sponsees, I mean, I try to do it and
Yeah,
I need to take care of myself.
yeah, yeah. Is it different for you? And I'm going completely off kilter here. Like
Only you know
that
that.
that yes, that the meeting are, is it different now that the meetings are not as physical as they were years ago? That a lot of it's Zoom. Do you
It's
think that?
very different. It's very
Yeah,
different. I love Zoom. I do everything on
you
Zoom.
do
Yeah.
more
I
so
rare
than physically showing up the way we did years
Yeah,
ago.
I don't really go to that many live meetings.
Okay.
My whole life is just different today. I live
Yeah,
in Westchester. I work from home most days. I started the when the pandemic hit, I started the Zoom group for most of the mustard seed meetings.
that's
And the
great.
Courage to Change group is very, very strong.
Good,
And I have
good.
a lot of sponsees on that group. I do service, and I'm on it. I go to a meeting every day, sometimes two, sometimes three, because I'm sitting right here working.
Yeah,
So I'll go
yeah.
on
That's one thing it did do is it made it exceptionally convenient, and you can go to meetings all over the world.
all over the
So it's
world. I
fantastic.
mean, it made it, yes, very easy, but it also created, I think, that element of it's too easy. So I hear people say, no, I didn't get there. Well, why not? I mean, come on, you can just go on Zoom. So, I think it opened up a whole world for alcoholics and the
For the
community.
better.
Just yeah, I think so. Yes, I do
Right.
think so. I
Okay.
think there are people that I go on meetings with that I've never met that I feel as close to as if I saw them every day. So
Gotcha.
I do think that it's very possible to have close relationships and have a home group on Zoom.
Cool. Cool. All righty. Now, what is it like today? So the exact question is, how has your definition of a good life changed since you got sober?
Oh, I mean, it's changed a lot. It's taken on different meaning in 35 years. Like when I got sober, I was, I was young, I was single, I had big hair, I had four cats, I lived in a studio, and it was, I had
I
my
remember.
rent was like $300. Everything was just free and fun, and, getting married and having kids was like such a, like beyond my wildest dreams,
Right,
fall
right.
in love and have kids. And then, going through those struggles in those years with Billy and raising kids and having him, and he ultimately died. He ultimately died
Yeah,
from
sure.
this. And when he died, it was 12 years ago. I was 59, and my kids were still in the house. And as they started leaving, I was like, now I'm in my 60s, and I'm like, wow, who is Lynn? Like, who am I? I, you know, Someone's sponsor, Billy's wife, Rita's mother, somebody's mother. I'm somebody's something. So the past really 12 years have been finding myself, and I'm happier now than I've ever
Ever
been.
been.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm 71 years old.
You
When I
look
turned
fantastic.
when I turned 70 last year, I was like a little kid turning 5. I told everybody, I'm going to be 70. I was so excited about turning 70.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just feel like I owe it all to sobriety.
And that's got to be sobriety. Most people, they don't look forward to 70. Here you are. I can't wait. I feel fantastic. I'm in great shape.
I
This
love
is,
it.
that's
And the best is
fantastic.
yet to come.
Yes,
I'm
I
still looking
agree.
I'm still looking for my last love, but and I don't know where he is, but I think he's out there somewhere. Anybody listening out there?
That you're going to have a lot of people listening and loving this. So also, what kind of things did you do back then that you still do now to stay sober? What are other? Do you have
Oh,
certain routines that keep you grounded? And you know, because I guess it can go either way with a lot of time. Does it
I, I,
change
I
through the
s-
years?
I mean, I still every day when I wake up, when I get back into bed with coffee and I'm looking because I don't remember. I count my days. So I have 12,742 days. And I do that every day. I count and I say I'm not going to drink today. So I keep everything very much in the day. Um, I pray. I go to meetings. I read the literature. I do
Right, right.
service. I do a lot of service. I do everything that they
To
told me
me,
to
it
do.
sounds like that's what you did years ago, and you're still doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I just do everything because, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Okay. This one I know you're going to be real good at too. So, what would your advice be to someone just starting out who's overwhelmed, unsure, like we were? My life's over. I'm going into recovery. What do you say to somebody like that?
I see people every single day who are like that, and you know, I I I try to tell them that I know exactly how you feel because when I came in and I heard people saying, oh, I was $100,000 in debt and now I own my own business, and I'm like, oh, good for you. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
you don't understand my problems. You don't understand, but we all come in with just a shitload of drama right behind us. And there's something about like putting it all on the shelf, like just get a sponsor who's going to drill that into you,
yeah,
who's going to really support you just letting it all go. Learn how to stay in the day. Get connected in a meeting,
yeah.
whether it's Zoom, whether it's live. Get connected in a meeting. Somehow, if you stay sober, your life will get better.
Absolutely.
And I try to tell people this all the time, and I see that lost look that they have, and
Yeah.
I promise them this, like I promise people things.
And that's a promise you could keep if they follow
Yes,
direction. That this too shall happen to them, and I'm a great
yes,
believer in that. So I love the way you promise, like I am telling you,
I
do
promise them
these
that.
things. Yeah, yeah, fantastic. Okay, looking back, is there anything that surprises you about the whole journey? Anything that well, shocked at
Everything,
this or surprised? Yeah, good
everything.
answer.
I mean, I
Yeah,
came in and I sat down, and I'm trying to remember like what I was. I think I was thinking, okay, I guess I'm not drinking, but I didn't know how. Like I didn't know that there was this whole program and there's all this like life changing stuff. Like if I knew what was ahead of me, I might have said, I think I'll come back when I'm feeling a little bit better. You know? Like it's good that we get we get it a little at a time. We just get enough
yeah,
each day to absorb that day.
right, right.
So the steps, I didn't really do the steps very well in the beginning. I was just, don't drink and go to dances is kind of
Yeah,
what we did.
yeah.
So it all surprises me, like all of the things, being able to like look at myself in the mirror and like what I see. Being able to be honest with people. Like who thought like
Very
I could
true.
be that? Like I couldn't do
I
that.
remember when I was drinking. I mean, I'd see you in the street, and I say I just had a slice of pizza. I'd say, "Oh, I had a hamburger." Nothing. The
Exactly.
truth was not good enough for me. I had to lie about absolutely
Everything.
everything.
Everything. And I made
Everything.
up stories.
Yes, yes,
Like
yes.
my life wasn't dramatic enough. I had to create more drama, like more, more, more.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Me too. Exactly. I think that's alcoholic behavior. It's all of us.
Yes.
Um,
And that's very
what's
comforting when you come in and you hear everybody else say they do it too.
Yes, yes. I think that's what as they say, attraction, not promotion. That's what
Yep.
all keeps us there. Is that, oh my God, this person is me up there. They're talking directly to me because that's who I am, and
And
that was the most comforting thing.
I have always been very upfront about my sobriety from day one. I
Right,
told
right,
people I was getting sober because I thought, well, if I let people see me like that, I might as well let them see me like this.
like this.
So I've just like, if you know me, you know I'm sober. They know
Right.
at work, they know
Yeah.
upstairs. they know you know, like if you know
Right.
me, you know I'm sober. So I go,
Absolutely.
and and I don't recommend that to people. Like I don't ever say you should do it. That's just very personal for each person. But I've had people, my kids, they tell their friends, like, "Oh yeah, my mom's sober a long time." But then people have come to me and said, "Oh, I heard you're sober. Like I have a problem." So, whatever you do, even if you don't tell anybody, you change so much that people want to know why you
They
change.
will absolutely know. And that's, you wear it like, as a garment, your personality, everything screams sobriety and
My
every
first
word out of
tattoo
your
was
mouth.
this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's beautiful. Let's see what else we got here. What's something about recovery that you wish more people knew or understood that are still out there sick and suffering?
I don't know that it works. That
Yes,
this is like the only thing that works. And I
absolutely.
don't know why. I don't know why. We're all so different. Like we all come to this from such different places, different backgrounds, different ages, different families. We
Absolutely.
all come from this, but we get here and we have this monumental change. Is it a cult? I don't know. Do we get brainwashed? I think so.
I
And I'm
remember
okay
when
with
I
it.
came around and I was doing some outpatient rehab, and I said, "You guys are just going to brainwash me." And the guy looked at me and said, maybe your brain needs to be washed a little bit.
I was okay with that when somebody said, I think they brainwash you. And I thought, oh, yeah, maybe I need that.
Yeah,
Maybe I
yeah,
need that every day. So,
absolutely.
I know it's kind of, look, it's not a cult and we don't get brainwashed, but in a sense, I feel like I do because everything that's up here is still up there. And I
Absolutely.
just, I went through like so in all those years mid sobriety, I would wake up every morning and wake up in just anxiety. And
Yeah,
I look back on all of that and we still got evicted. Billy still died.
right.
I still, but I
Life
don't,
on life's terms, and you just know how to deal with it.
so I don't worry anymore about
Yeah,
things. I don't live in anxiety. I don't have any resentments. I just choose not to
yeah,
because I think having resentments, having anxiety, is a choice that we make, and I choose not to. And I'm very zen. I'm very zen. I'm very, happy. I mean, some days I'm really happy, and other days I'm just okay. And that's what I
yeah.
wanted when I was drinking. I always just wanted to be okay.
Yep, 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 yep. Perfect, perfect. I love how this is going, Lynn. All right, so if you could say something to your younger, struggling self, what would it have been?
I think about that so much.
You do, huh?
I look at her, and she was so innocent, really, and so likable. Like I was
You really
always
were. You
so,
still are.
well, thank you. And I was just had no self respect. I, I had none. I don't know. I would say, I don't even know. Like I would just want to hold me,
Yeah,
and I would want to just, all the normal things like stop drinking,
yeah,
like, yeah, or, but my path was my path, and I was going to do what
absolutely.
I did. And it's hard to look and say, like, if I hadn't married this guy when I was 19 for like a year, when my mother said, no, you're not doing that, if I had listened, if I hadn't, like, what direction would my life have gone in? Every decision that we make has a consequence. So, I could look back and say, don't marry that guy.
Right.
Or, don't, but I don't know. I would like myself more. I wish I'd liked myself more.
I liked what you said about hugging and loving yourself more because I mean for me too, there was no self-esteem there. There was only shame.
Yeah.
And the more I drank and the more I drug, the more I lied and had more and more and more shame on top of it. And sobriety taught me a whole new way to look at that. And like you said, I have good days, I got to say this. I want to say maybe I have a tough day, but it's never a bad day. And I learned
Well,
something
it's
in
tough
AA.
moments in the day.
Right.
Hmm.
And I remember in AA, I remember I'd walk in, especially in the beginning, say I was having a tough time, and you always hear what you need to in a meeting. And I would hear someone say, at any time today, you can start your day over again. And I remembered that. And I said,
I'll never forget sitting in a meeting one time. It was a Sunday afternoon in the mustard seed, and I was just like, "Oh, this meeting sucks. What am I doing here?" Like it was just like the worst meeting. It was a beautiful day outside. It was dark inside. This guy, and I wasn't paying attention. Then all of a sudden, he said, and my grandmother used to say, "If you're going to pray, don't worry. If you're going to worry, don't pray." And I went, "Oh,
yeah,
wow, that's why I'm here."
that's it.
So it's just there's no bad meeting.
No
No
bad
bad.
meeting. I've never went to a meeting and walked out and said, shit, I wish I wasn't there.
Never,
Never,
never.
never. So, I mean, we both are in agreement with so many things, and you are such a big part of my life. I love you
Oh,
dearly. You help me so much, and
you babysat
I
my
still
kids
love.
for
I
me when
Yes,
they were.
I remember when you moved out of New Jersey. I'm the guy who drove that giant truck.
You
Me
drove that
and
truck.
Kevin and Mickey. We drove that truck. Where did we
You
move you
drove
to?
that truck. You were one of my only friends when I moved to Jersey. Billy had just relapsed. I had a
Yeah,
brand new baby, a 2 year old and a 10 year old. And Billy relapsed. Nobody from the mustard seed was talking to me. And you were
because
my
of that
only.
reason. They can be harsh sometimes. You're still sober. That should have been the only important thing.
Yeah, I think Billy and I were such a tight part of
Right,
that
right,
group
right.
that when he drank, I don't know, it all just kind of,
Blew
people
up.
got scared.
Yeah.
But you were there for me. I remember one time driving through the tunnel, and so you could give me like, I don't know, $10 or $20, so I could
Yeah, yeah.
love you.
Same here. Same here. So, with that, our lovely podcast is going to come to an end.
Oh my God, this was so much fun. When can we do it
It
again?
really, really was. So, in closing, we will wrap up this episode of the Choices podcast. I hope our time together was inspiring and motivating. Stay empowered and stay well. You can watch this episode and all episodes on our website at choicesgifts.com. Peace and blessings, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much, Lynn. Love you.